Looking back now, I can still remember that drive like it's burned into the film of my mind. Hours of winding roads, two cars full of gear, coffee that had gone from lukewarm to bitter ice, and a playlist that seemed to know exactly what kind of summer this was going to be. Slow, heavy, and impossible to forget. I tried to joke through it. If I hear one more heartbreak song, I'm walking home. Mia laughed, that easy laugh she always had back then, and nudged my arm. Why are we doing this again? 3 months with no signal, no air conditioning? She was half kidding. Half. But I couldn't blame her. The Rangers ad had promised a simple summer job, cleanup duty, trail work, a cabin in the woods. But to me, it felt like the start of something bigger. Criss was in the passenger seat, staring at his phone like he could will a signal into existence. No bars. Figures, he muttered. That was Criss, always half connected, even in the middle of nowhere. Behind us, Samantha leaned out her window, camera in hand, snapping pictures of the tree line. She could make a shadow look like a story, and a story feel like a confession. We were 4 friends, nerdy, sarcastic, stubborn, and back then I thought that was enough. I thought friendship could hold off anything. Mia caught me watching her reflection in the glass. "You're smiling," she said. "That usually means trouble." "Goosebumps are part of the fun," I told her. She rolled her eyes, but smiled anyway. If I'd known what was waiting for us past the tree line, I might have turned the car around right there. But I didn't. None of us did. Criss stretched, yawning. "So, easy money, right? Fix a few trails, clean a few cabins, get a tan?" Samantha smirked. "And if we find a ghost story along the way, even better." The way she said it made Mia groan, but I caught that glint in Samantha's eyes, the same look she got when her camera caught something she shouldn't have. When we finally pulled into the ranger station, the sun was lowering, and the forest felt too quiet. The sign out front leaned to one side, and the windows reflected only sky, not us. Even now, I can still feel that first moment of silence when the engines died. It was the kind of quiet that doesn't belong in a living place. I remember looking at the others, their faces full of plans, excitement, maybe a little fear, and feeling that strange mix of warmth and dread that only shows up in memories that end badly. That was the start of it. 4 friends, a forest full of secrets, and a summer that changed everything.
The ranger station looked smaller than I remembered from the brochure. Wood panels faded to gray, paint peeling, the sign tilting like it had given up holding itself straight. Inside, the air smelled of pine cleaner and damp paper. A ceiling fan groaned overhead, turning slower than it should. Somewhere in the back, a radio hissed with static, and then fell silent. A man stood behind the counter, late 50s maybe, sun-creased face, expression carved out of habit more than friendliness. "You the summer crew?" he asked without looking up. I told him, yeah, 4 of us, cabins and trails. He flipped through a clipboard, nodded once. Cabin 6, out past the ridge, bit farther than most. Then he looked at me for the first time. Hope that's not a problem. Criss grinned. More privacy, right? The ranger didn't grin back. Privacy, he said again, softer, like the word meant something else here. He handed me a folded map, the edges yellowed. The radio's in the cabin, but it cuts out sometimes. You'll hear coyotes. Maybe more. Don't go hiking after dark. Mia shifted beside me. Is there something out there? The ranger didn't answer right away. Then, just the forest. Samantha raised her camera halfway, then lowered it. You don't mind if we film while we're out there, right? He shrugged. You can film whatever you want, just don't get lost doing it. Criss whispered to her. Translation, don't make a found footage movie. She snorted softly. Not yet. Even the ranger almost smiled at that. Almost. We stepped aside while he filled out the paperwork, and for a moment the room felt too quiet, like all the air had paused to listen. Mia leaned close. Why do all your adventures start with creepy men handing us warnings? I smirked. Because it wouldn't be an adventure without one. She elbowed me. One of these days, that attitude's gonna get us killed. Maybe, but at least it'll make a good story. Criss looked up from his phone again. No signal. Surprise, surprise. Samantha murmured, maybe that's for the best. He grinned. What, afraid we'll meet Bigfoot and not be able to live stream it? She gave him a look. Something like that. The ranger cleared his throat, not loud but sharp enough to stop us. He slid the map toward me and tapped the northern edge. Cabin 6 is here. Trail curves left at the old bridge. Stay on it. Then, almost as an afterthought, if you hear voices at night, don't answer. I waited for him to laugh, but he didn't. Just looked past us, toward the window where the forest pressed against the glass. We carried our bags back out again. The sunlight was different now, harsher, flatter, as if the trees had moved closer while we were inside. When the door shut behind us, the radio hissed again, just once. Back at the cars, Criss said, Guy really knows how to roll out the welcome mat. Mia buckled in. Maybe he just doesn't like people. Samantha, half smiling, or maybe he likes them too much. We all laughed, but it felt thin, nervous. The kind of laugh people use to hide that they're listening for something else. We loaded up and started toward Cabin 6. Dust followed us down the road, curling through the light like smoke. Even now, when I think of that moment, I can still hear the ranger's voice echoing in my head. Don't go hiking after dark. We reached Cabin 6 just as the sun began to fall behind the trees. The road ended in a clearing that looked more like a forgotten campsite than a job site. The cabin stood alone. Dark logs, tin roof, porch half sinking in the moss. A single window reflected the last orange light, and for a second it almost looked like someone was standing inside. Criss killed the engine. Silence rushed in, heavy and absolute. Even the birds had gone quiet. Samantha climbed out first, camera already rolling. She said softly, Cabin 6, where civilization ends. Mia groaned. You say that like it's a good thing. We unloaded the gear, boxes of tools, food, batteries, everything the ranger said we'd need for 3 months off-grid. The air smelled of sap and cold water. Each breath felt like it carried something older than us. Criss tested the radio. Nothing but static. He smacked it once. Guess we're really roughing it. Mia laughed. You'll survive a few days without Reddit. The cabin door creaked open with a sound like it hadn't moved in years. Inside, dust, cobwebs, faint mildew, and one crooked picture of a deer nailed above the hearth. It was colder inside than out. We spread out, checking rooms, testing lights. Most of them flickered, a few refused entirely. Samantha set up her tripod near the window. If we get haunted, I want coverage from every angle. Criss muttered, "Great, the ghost can pick its best side." Outside, footsteps crunched. Not ours. We froze. Then a voice. "Hey there! You folks renting cabin 6? Two hikers stepped into view. A man and a woman, both carrying heavy packs. The man smiled easily. "Aaron Blake," he said. "That's Leah. Didn't mean to startle you." Leah lifted her camera. "We've been hiking the Ridge Trail. Didn't think anyone else came out this far." Mia relaxed. "We're here for the summer program, trail maintenance." Aaron nodded. "Good luck with that. Weather changes fast up here. If you hear something in the woods at night, don't assume it's the wind." He grinned like it was a joke, but his eyes didn't match. Leah pointed toward the trees. "We saw movement earlier, probably a deer, but kind of big. Just heads up." Samantha leaned closer. "Mind if I film your warning?" Leah laughed. "Sure, make us famous if we disappear." They waved and continued down the trail, their voices fading into the trees until only the wind answered. For a while, none of us spoke. Then Criss said quietly, "I hate friendly strangers in horror stories." We unpacked in silence after that. The sky dimmed to steel gray, and by the time we finished, the forest had swallowed the last of the light. From somewhere deep among the pines, a long, low cry echoed, too high for a coyote, too drawn out for anything I wanted to identify. Mia looked at me. "You heard that too?" I nodded. That was the first night at Cabin 6, the first sound that didn't belong.
The first night came quicker than any of us expected. By the time we finished dinner, the woods outside had gone completely black. No street lights, no other cabins in sight. Inside, the generator hummed just enough to remind us it was alive. Shadows moved across the log walls like they were breathing with us. Criss sat by the window, headset on, twisting dials. "Nothing but static," he said. "Feels like the world ended and nobody told us." Mia smiled weakly. "Maybe that's the point." Samantha looked up from her camera. "If the world ended, at least I'll have footage." Criss laughed. "Great. Post-apocalypse influencer. 10 million followers, 0 survivors." I stirred the coffee pot on the wood stove. The smell helped, grounding me. "I said the ranger said we'd hear coyotes. Guess they got the memo to stay quiet." Mia blew into her mug. "Maybe they know something we don't." No one answered that one. Samantha panned her camera toward the hallway. "I swear, I'm getting cold pockets all over this place. Look." She waved a thermometer at Criss. "The thermometer says 72. You sure it's not just your nerves?" She lowered the camera, half smiling. "Maybe. Or maybe ghosts like cozy cabins." I stepped outside for air. The forest felt different at night. Closer, heavier. Even with the lantern light behind me, the tree line swallowed everything after 10 feet. A soft creak sounded. Porch steps settling, or maybe not. Then a branch cracked somewhere beyond the clearing. Then another, heavier. I told myself it was a deer. I didn't really believe it. Mia joined me on the porch, arms folded. "It's colder out here," she said. "Yeah. Think those hikers made camp near the ridge?" "Maybe. They seemed like they knew what they were doing." She hesitated. "You think that sound earlier was an animal?" "I hope so." Inside, laughter drifted out. Criss and Samantha arguing over what scares people more, ghosts or cryptids. "Cryptids! They can break doors." "Ghosts! They don't need doors." She chuckled. "Touché." The lightness almost felt normal again. Almost. Another noise rolled through the woods. Low and long, halfway between a growl and a whistle. Mia's flashlight beam jumped, slicing fog and landing on nothing. We waited. The generator hiccuped once, lights flickering behind us. Criss opened the door. "You guys hearing that?" Samantha was right behind him, camera rolling. "That wasn't wind," she said. For a moment, the forest breathed with us. Then, from somewhere deep among the pines, came 3 short knocks, spaced out, deliberate. Mia whispered, "What animal does that?" None of us answered. The sound didn't come again, just the creak of trees and the slow hum of the generator recovering. We went inside together, closing the door like it could actually keep anything out. Criss forced a laugh. "Well, that's enough outdoor time for tonight." Samantha lowered her camera. "Yeah, but I got that on tape." Mia looked at me. "Don't erase it." I didn't plan to. That was the night the forest stopped being scenery. It started feeling like something alive and listening.
Sunlight came too bright, like the forest was pretending nothing had happened. Birds were back, wind moved through the pines as if the night had been a bad dream. Criss brewed coffee over the stove. "See? No ghosts, no monsters, just caffeine and regret," he said. Samantha yawned. "Speak for yourself. I spent all night watching that window." Mia stretched near the door. "At least nothing knocked again." Criss smirked. "That we heard." I stepped outside, mug in hand. The air smelled like wet soil and wood smoke that wasn't ours. Something metallic hung under it, cold and sharp, like pennies in rainwater. The clearing was quiet, except for the drip of dew. Then I saw them. Tracks in the mud. Big, deep. Too straight for deer, too heavy for bear. Each print ended at the trees, and then nothing. Just flattened ferns, like something had lifted off the ground. Mia came beside me. "Tyler, what kind of animal walks on 3 legs? Maybe one limping?" She frowned. "Then where's the 4th print?" Samantha appeared with her camera. "Hold still. This is wild." She crouched beside the track. Fresh. No rain, no runoff. Whatever made this was here before sunrise. Criss joined us, rubbing sleep from his eyes. "Could be Aaron or Leah. Heavy packs, weird stride." "Except," she said, The stride's twice yours." He grinned weakly. "I guess I'm skipping leg day again." A soft whistle echoed from the ridge, then a shout. "Aaron!" Leah's voice, bright and tired. Moments later, they stepped from the trail, packs slung low, clothes damp with morning fog. "Morning," Aaron said. "You guys hear anything last night?" "Yeah," I answered. "Something knocking." He looked down at the tracks. "Thought I heard that too. Figured it was the wind until it came 3 times. Leah nudged him. "Don't start that again. Probably a woodpecker with insomnia." Mia smiled politely. "You two heading somewhere?" "Fire tower," Aaron said. "Signal's better up there. Might check in before the weather turns." Samantha adjusted her camera strap. "Mind if we tag along later?" He shrugged. "Sure, trail's rough, but it's worth the view." They waved and moved on. I watched them disappear between the trees, their voices carried off by the wind. Mia said quietly, "They seem different today." "Yeah," I said. "Like they didn't sleep either." Criss blew across his coffee. "Or maybe they just realized the Wi-Fi's dead." Samantha didn't laugh. "Something's off about them." Leah kept filming even while she was talking. When we turned back toward the cabin, the porch caught the light. 3 long claw marks raked across one of the beams, deep, blackened as if burned in. The wood was still warm. We stood there, no jokes left between us. That was the morning we stopped laughing about the forest. That was the day it stopped pretending to be ordinary.
The trail climbed fast. Switchbacks cut into the hill, roots twisting like ribs under the dirt. We left the cabin early, packs light, air still damp from last night's fog. Aaron led, steady as ever. Leah filmed behind him, pointing her camera at everything, the moss, the trees, even us. "Day 2 of the wilderness adventure," she said. "No monsters yet." Criss raised a brow. "Give it an hour." The forest was quieter than it should have been. No insects, no birds, just the crunch of boots on old needles. Samantha whispered, "You notice how sound doesn't carry up here?" Mia nodded. "Feels like we're walking through cotton." Aaron slowed. "That's how the forest keeps secrets." We reached a ridge overlook, a drop of 50 feet down to a small lake, perfectly still, mirror flat. I pulled out my phone out of habit. No bars. Not even one. Criss grinned. "Guess we're officially off the grid." Leah said softly, "Maybe that's for the best." Then came the smell. Faint, like iron and smoke again. Aaron frowned. "You smell that?" Samantha tilted her lens toward the tree line. "Same scent from this morning." We followed it a few yards off trail, careful not to lose sight of each other. At the base of a birch, the bark was shredded halfway up, deep gouges curling outward. The marks were higher than any bear could reach. Something dark clung to the wood, thick, almost tar-like. Aaron touched it, then jerked his hand back. Sticky, warm. Criss swallowed. "Maybe sap?" "No," Aaron said. "Sap doesn't smell like blood." Mia took a step back. "Let's go." I agreed. Every instinct screamed, "Leave it alone." But Samantha lingered, zooming in on the marks. Whatever did this, it wasn't just claws. Look, burn around the edges. From somewhere deeper in the woods came a distant rustle. Slow, deliberate. pacing with our heartbeat. We froze. Leah whispered, "Please tell me that's wind." No one answered. Then the sound stopped. Absolute silence. Even the trees seemed to wait. Aaron finally said, "We keep moving." We turned back toward the trail, and for a split second, I thought I saw movement reflected in the lake below. Tall, thin, watching. When I blinked, it was gone. We reached the next bend without talking. The fire tower rose above the pines, half hidden in mist. Aaron exhaled. "There it is." Criss muttered, "Great. Climb a creaking death trap while something watches from the woods. Classic vacation." Mia forced a smile. At least it's daylight. But daylight didn't feel like safety anymore.
The fire tower rose out of the trees like a rusted skeleton, 40 feet tall, wrapped in fog. Up close, it looked less like a lookout and more like a warning someone forgot to take down. Aaron was the first to test the steps. "Still solid," he said, though the metal groaned under his boot. Leah aimed her camera upward. Perfect horror shot. Criss muttered, "Yeah, right before the final scream." We started to climb, one at a time, the tower rattling with every step. The forest fell away beneath us, swallowed by mist. Halfway up, the wind shifted, carrying that same iron smell again. Samantha whispered, "You smell that?" Mia nodded. "It's stronger here." Aaron kept climbing. "Let's just get to the top." The lookout cabin at the summit leaned slightly to one side. Its door was ajar, hinges rusted and streaked with brown. Leah stepped inside first, camera light cutting through the gloom. "Something was living up here," she said. Old blankets lay piled in the corner, empty cans, a lantern, and a torn map pinned to the wall. But it wasn't the trash that made my stomach twist. It was the smell. Underneath the rust and dust was something sweet and rotten. Samantha crouched near the window. "Tyler, come look at this." Across the glass were handprints, dozens of them, some small, some huge, all pressed in from the outside. The pattern curved upward, like something had climbed to look in. Mia's voice shook. "We should go." Aaron nodded. "Yeah, Leah." But Leah wasn't filming the window anymore. Her camera pointed down toward the woods. "There," she whispered. "Something's moving by the lake." We crowded to the ledge. At first I saw only fog, then it shifted, just enough to show a tall, narrow silhouette standing at the edge of the clearing. No color, no face, just shape and stillness. The mist closed around it again, and it was gone. The wind picked up hard, tower swaying under us. Criss grabbed the railing. "That's it, I'm done sightseeing." Leah's camera still pointed at the trees. It was right there. Aaron's voice was low. "Everybody down, now." We descended fast. Each step screamed against the rusted bolts. Halfway down, a single metallic clang echoed from below, like something heavy brushing the ladder. Mia froze. "Did you hear that?" We all did. Then another sound, a scrape, slow and deliberate, circling the tower base. Something waiting. Aaron motioned for us to move. We hit the ground running. When I looked back, The fog was rolling thicker, swallowing the clearing and the tower whole. But I swear, just before it vanished, I saw a hand, long, wrong, curl around the lowest rung. That was the first time I knew the stories were true. The Pine Devil wasn't a myth. It had been watching us all along.
We didn't run all the way back. We half walked, half fell through the brush, breathing like the forest itself was pushing back. Every branch looked like a hand. Every shadow looked like it wanted to move. Criss muttered, "Next summer, let's go to the beach." Samantha answered, "Yeah, maybe someplace without gravity." Even scared, we still needed to pretend we were fine. When the cabin finally appeared through the mist, its single window glowed a faint orange. At first, I thought it was the sunrise. Then I remembered we'd left the lanterns off. Erin stopped short. "Did anyone leave that on?" Mia shook her head. "We unplugged everything." Leah lifted her camera, zooming in. "The door's open." We stepped onto the porch. The door creaked wider, slow as breath. Inside, the air was thick with that smell again, iron, ash, and something wet. The table lantern flickered on its own, its glass smeared with streaks of dirt. A small pile of pine needles lay beneath it, as if the forest had spilled inside. Samantha swept her light across the room. "Someone's been here." Criss forced a laugh. "Great. Do they pay rent?" No one smiled. Erin crouched near the floor. "Boot prints," he said. "Ours and something else." The others gathered around. The new prints were longer, thinner, pressing so deep into the wood that the boards bowed. Mia whispered, "How heavy do you have to be to do that?" No one answered. Leah checked the back door. It hung half open, scraping softly against the frame. Outside, fog hugged the trees like smoke. For a second, I thought I saw movement beyond it. A darker shape inside the dark. Erin closed the door and bolted it. "All windows too," he said. We moved quietly, checking latches and corners. The cabin felt smaller now, every wall too thin. When we finished, Criss exhaled hard. "Well, good news. We're trapped inside now." Samantha whispered, "Better than out there." Then the generator coughed. Once. The light dimmed, fluttered, and steadied. We froze. Outside, something scraped along the wall, metal against wood, slow, dragging. Mia covered her mouth. It stopped. Silence thicker than the air. Then above us, a creak. Just one. A single step on the roof. Erin's jaw tightened. "Everyone stay still." I stared at the ceiling, waiting for the next sound that never came. That was the first night the forest climbed the cabin.
The first sound was a slow scrape, metal against wood, then a heavy thud right above us. No one moved. We just stared at the ceiling, waiting for the next one. It came faster this time. A step, then another. Whatever was up there was walking. Criss whispered, "Raccoon?" Samantha shook her head. "Raccoons don't weigh that much." The wood groaned again, louder now, shifting with its weight. Erin grabbed the flashlight, angled it toward the rafters. "Mia, get the lantern." Her hands were trembling so bad, she nearly dropped it. The light flickered once, catching dust raining down from the boards. Something above us dragged its claws, long, slow, like nails down a chalkboard. It stopped over the window. Leah raised her camera. "Don't," Aaron said quietly, but she already had it recording. The ceiling creaked. Then, silence. We stood there, listening to nothing. And then, the window shattered inward. Glass rained across the table. Something black and fast reached through the frame. Long fingers, thin as branches, ending in points. It scraped the wood once before vanishing back into the dark. Samantha screamed. Aaron pulled her down as more glass fell. I ran to the door, and the door moved back. Something pushed from the other side, hard. Criss threw his shoulder into it. "Help me!" We slammed it shut, bolted it. The hinges bent, whining under pressure. For a second, I thought they'd snap. Then it stopped. We listened, breathing in the dark. Outside, the forest had gone completely still. Not even wind. Leah's camera light flickered over the broken glass. Something dark stained the window frame. Thick, tar-like, just like the birch tree. Aaron whispered, "Everyone grab your stuff. We're leaving." But before we could move, something hit the roof again. Not a step, a leap. The whole cabin shook. Dust poured from the rafters. Mia stumbled, catching herself on the table. "Tyler!" she started. Then the ceiling cracked open. A claw burst through, catching her shoulder. She screamed. I grabbed her, pulled hard, blood slick on my hands. Aaron swung the flashlight upward, and for a moment, we all saw it. A face, pale, stretched, with eyes like polished coal, staring down through the split boards. Then it was gone. We dragged Mia toward the door. The pounding stopped as suddenly as it started. Only the forest remained. And somewhere out there, something breathed, slow, steady, watching. That was the night we stopped pretending we could leave.
We didn't sleep. We just waited for morning like it was salvation. But when the sun finally came, it felt pale and wrong. Too quiet. Too still. Mia's shoulder was wrapped in gauze and duct tape. The claw marks had gone deep. Not just scratches, but cuts that burned. Aaron said, "We need to get her to help." Criss shook his head. "We hike out now. That thing'll follow us." The argument started quiet and got louder. Samantha grabbed her camera. "We can't stay here. It found us once." Leah said, "The road's 5 miles. We can make it." Aaron nodded. "If we stick together." Mia tried to stand, pale and shaking. "I can walk." I helped her shoulder the pack. But when she turned toward the window, she froze. Outside, in the dirt, symbols. Carved deep into the ground. Circles and lines that twisted in on themselves. Fresh, smoking slightly like they'd been burned there. Aaron whispered, "What is that?" Samantha filmed it through the glass. Leah said softly, "It's marking us." The forest line was motionless, but something about the trees looked wrong, like a few had moved closer overnight. Aaron took a step toward the door. "Grab your stuff. We're leaving." We packed fast. Gear, first aid, camera, water. Mia was barely holding together, teeth gritted against the pain. Criss handed her his jacket. "If it comes again,
I'll slow it down." She didn't laugh. None of us did. Outside, the light felt flat and heavy. Every sound, our breathing, the crunch of boots, the sway of the packs, sounded too loud. Aaron led, Leah close behind. Samantha walked beside me, her camera still rolling. We reached the clearing's edge and found the hikers' footprints from yesterday. Only now, they didn't stop at the trail. They circled back. Whatever killed them last night had walked them home.
The trail should have led us towards safety. Instead, it led us straight into silence. Aaron was ahead, flashlight cutting through the mist. Leah followed close behind, camera still in her hand. The rest of us moved slow, too tired to run, too scared to stop. The woods looked different in daylight. Every tree leaned the wrong way, and the fog had thickened, clinging to the ground like smoke that didn't rise. Mia whispered, "We're being herded." Aaron didn't answer. He just kept walking. We found the first sign near the stream. A ripped jacket sleeve caught on a branch. Dark stains soaked the fabric, still wet. Leah crouched beside it. "That's not his jacket," she said softly, but we all knew it was. The trail beyond was splattered with drops of red. Not a smear, but a path. Something had been dragged. Samantha raised her camera. "We should turn back," Criss said. "To what?" "The cabin's not safer." No one argued. We just kept walking. A few hundred yards later, Aaron stopped. "Stay here." He moved ahead, vanishing into the fog. Leah called out, but he didn't answer. We waited. The forest made no sound at all. Then the sound came. Not a scream, but a gasp, short and sharp, cut off halfway. Leah ran forward before we could stop her. I followed. What we found didn't make sense. Aaron was on the ground, eyes open, throat torn wide but clean. No claw marks, no mess. He looked placed there. Leah fell to her knees beside him. Her camera still recorded, pointed toward the trees. Then something moved behind her. Tall, wrong, blending into the fog. "Leah!" I shouted. She turned, and something pulled her back into the trees. The camera hit the ground, lens cracked, still rolling. Through the static, I saw a shape dragging her away. And then nothing. Mia sobbed, shaking. "We have to go." Criss whispered, "She's gone." Aaron and Leah, gone in minutes. We left the camera where it fell. I couldn't bring myself to touch it. Even now when I close my eyes, I still see that frame. The forest watching, waiting, breathing.
We ran. No plan, no direction, just instinct. Branches tore at our arms, roots caught our feet. The fog swallowed everything behind us, but the sound followed, that heavy, deliberate rhythm, somewhere between a step and a heartbeat. Mia stumbled. Criss caught her, pulling her up. Her shoulder was bleeding again, but she didn't stop. None of us did. Samantha shouted, "This way!" A faint path opened through the trees. Old ranger markings, half-faded paint on the bark. It led downhill toward the stream. We followed. The air grew colder the further we ran. Our breath came out in clouds, but the fog didn't move anymore. It hung still, like it was watching. Behind us, a snap, then another. Too close. Criss turned, flashlight shaking. "Do you see it?" I did, just for a second. A shape gliding between trees, long arms swaying like branches in the wind. We hit the stream, cold water up to our knees. Mia cried out, pain, exhaustion, fear. Aaron and Leah were gone, but she kept whispering their names anyway. Samantha stopped filming. She dropped the camera, hands shaking so bad she couldn't hold it. "Tyler, it's not following tracks. It's following us." "How do you know?" I asked. She looked at the trees. "Because the fog only moves when we do." Then we heard it again. That sound, closer this time. A slow inhale, drawn through teeth. The water rippled beside us. "Run," I said. And we did. Up the opposite bank, through the wet soil, heartbeats louder than footsteps. I didn't look back, but I swear I could feel it. The ground shaking, the breath on my neck. That was the moment I stopped believing in escape.
We didn't know how long we'd been running. The fog never changed, and the forest never ended. Eventually, we just stopped, too tired to keep pretending we could outrun it. Samantha spotted a break in the trees, a shallow ravine where the ground dipped down into shadow. We followed it, sliding on mud and roots, until we found a hollow, a place where the pines bent inward, their branches twisted together overhead like a roof. It was quiet down there, not peaceful, just empty. No birds, no wind, no sound but our breathing.
Criss sat first, back against a rock. He was pale, shaking, and I realized for the first time how much blood covered him. Not his, not Mia's, just blood. Pause. Mia leaned against a tree, her shoulder wrapped tight, eyes half closed, whispering names I didn't want to hear. Samantha still held her camera, but the lens was cracked, and she wasn't filming anymore. Pause. I remember the way the light looked there, gray and thin, filtering through the fog like smoke from a dying fire. We didn't talk for a long time. There was nothing left to say. Pause.
Then Criss looked up. "Tyler," he said, "you ever wonder if it's not just following us, but driving us somewhere?" Before I could answer, Mia whispered, "There's something in the ground." We turned. She was pointing to the base of the largest pine where the soil looked disturbed. Samantha knelt, brushing away leaves. Underneath was a wooden marker, half buried, carved with letters almost worn away. She read aloud, "Ranger Holt, 1952. Aaron had mentioned him on our first day, the old ranger who'd vanished in the forest and never come back. The ground around the marker was soft, and something pale stuck out just beneath the dirt. A bone. Not animal. Human. Mia began to cry. Criss whispered, "We need to keep moving." But I couldn't, because right then I realized we hadn't found shelter. We'd found a grave. At first, we thought the wind had come back,
but the sound wasn't right. It didn't move through the trees. It circled us. The fog thickened, settling low, like it wanted to bury what we'd found. The air turned heavy, cold and still. Samantha backed away from the grave marker. Her camera light flickered, catching movement just outside the hollow. Branches bending, one after another, like something large was passing between them. Criss whispered, "No, it's underneath." Before I could ask what he meant, the ground shifted. Just a small tremor, enough to make the leaves shiver. Mia gasped. The soil near the bone began to sink, like the earth was breathing. Then, with a soft crack, the marker tilted and fell. Samantha turned the camera toward it. The screen glitched. A faint, high-pitched tone buzzed from the mic. She took a step closer. That's when the whisper started. Not words, just a low hum that rose from the dirt itself. It vibrated in our chests, like standing too close to a speaker. Criss grabbed my arm. "We have to go." But Mia didn't move. She stared at the ground, whispering back. Her voice was soft, trembling. "Someone's still down there." The soil split open. A hand, pale and half-rotted, reached out through the dirt. Samantha screamed and dropped the camera. The hand twitched once, then pulled itself back under, as if something below had dragged it down. For a moment, everything was still. Then the trees around the hollow bent inward, groaning like wood under pressure. The fog rushed upward, not like mist, but like smoke pulled by fire. The whole forest exhaled, and I swear, for half a second, I heard someone whisper my name. Then, the fog went black. When the fog finally lifted, the hollow was empty. The marker was gone, the dirt smooth, like it had never been there. We didn't speak for a long time. Samantha was the first to move. Her camera was cracked, but she turned it on anyway. It powered up, even though the battery had been dead since the night before. The screen flickered, static, then sound. A voice, old, distant, full of static and breath. "Ranger Holt, reporting, North Sector. God help us." Then it cut off. The air went still again. Criss whispered, "It's a recording." But Samantha shook her head. "No, it's live." We followed the sound uphill, slow, careful steps through the fog, until we reached a clearing with the remains of a ranger outpost. Just a pile of timbers and a metal desk, half buried in moss. But sitting on it was a radio, still on, still transmitting. The speaker hissed, then clicked, a different voice this time, low, wet, like someone breathing through water. "He's still here. The forest keeps what it takes." Mia covered her ears. Criss grabbed the power cord and yanked it free, but the radio kept playing. Samantha backed away, shaking. "It's him, Holt. He's warning us." The voice shifted, stuttering through the static. "Turn back. Fire won't stop it. Roots. In the roots."
The signal spiked, a shriek of feedback so sharp that it made us drop to our knees. When it cleared, the voice was gone. Only the sound of breathing remained. Slow, deliberate, in perfect sync with ours. And then in the middle of that static, we heard it whisper one last time, "Tyler." Long pause.
We ran again. Not because we wanted to, because something in that voice made us. The fog was gone now, burned away by a wind that came from nowhere. Branches snapped ahead of us, not behind, like the forest was closing ranks. Criss shouted, "It's hurting us!" He was right. Every path curved back into itself, like the woods were folding over and rearranging. Everywhere we turned, we ended up facing the same tree, the one with the blood-black bark. Mia stumbled to her knees. She looked up at me, eyes wide, dazed. "Tyler, I can hear it." I didn't ask what, because I heard it too. A low hum, like a heartbeat through the ground. Each pulse shook loose dust from the trees. Samantha raised the flashlight. "Move! Now!" The beam cut across the trunks, and there it was. The pine devil stepped out of the dark, tall, bent wrong. Its ribs moved like they were breathing on their own. And those eyes, black glass, reflecting our own light back at us. It didn't charge, it stalked. Each step slow, measured. Every branch it touched turned black and brittle. Criss swung the hatchet. It hit, but the thing didn't bleed. It burned. The metal hissed and melted down the handle. Criss screamed, clutching his hand. "Mia, go!" I shouted. She and Samantha ran. I dragged Criss after them, his fingers smoking. The thing moved faster now, silent, gliding. We reached the creek again. The water ran red with mud and ash. I pushed Criss across, then turned back for one last look. It stood at the edge, not crossing, just watching. The air shimmered around it, like heat above asphalt. And in that shimmer, I saw faces. Holt, Aaron, Leah, all of them staring back, mouths open, breathing with the same sound. Then the forest screamed. Every tree, every root, the sound hit like thunder, and we ran until the screaming stopped. We didn't stop running until the trees opened up. A clearing, blackened earth, old burned scars, the remains of a fire break from decades ago. Criss collapsed near the tree line, breathing hard. His burned hand looked worse. Skin cracked, dark veins spreading from the wound. Mia tried to help him, but he shoved her away. "It's not me anymore," he said. Samantha dropped her pack, pulled out a flare. "We burn it," she said. "We trap it here." Her voice didn't shake. She'd already decided. We tore through the clearing, stacking branches, broken trunks, anything that would burn. The smell of pine sap and smoke clung to everything. Criss poured fuel from the lantern can across the line of dead brush. I could barely see him through the fog, but I saw his face, pale, calm, almost peaceful. He knew what he was doing. The forest went quiet again. Too quiet. No wind, No breath, just waiting. Then it stepped into the clearing. The pine devil. The fog bent around it like heat off metal. It didn't charge. It watched. And when Criss raised the flare, it took one step closer. "Now!" Samantha yelled. Criss dropped the flare. The line of fuel ignited in a flash, a wave of fire racing through the brush, and for a moment I thought it might actually work. The creature screamed, not from pain, from anger. It lunged through the fire. Criss hit it with the axe. The two of them went down together, rolling in the flames, the forest glowing around them. Samantha dragged me backward. Mia was crying, calling Criss's name, but he was already gone, both of them swallowed by the fire. We ran again. The smoke burned our lungs, the fire chasing us through the trees like a living thing. Behind us, the forest roared, and through the noise, I could still hear it, the pine devil's scream, echoing through the flames.
Sometimes I still smell the smoke. Even now, years later, I'll wake up in the middle of the night and swear I can hear the forest burning. They said it was lightning that started the fire. They said no bodies were found, but I know better. Samantha never went back to filming. Mia doesn't talk about that summer. And Criss, well, some nights when the wind hits the trees just right, I can still hear him calling my name. I drove up there once, years after it happened. The ranger station was gone. Just a stretch of road swallowed by weeds, and a sign half buried in mud, North Sector, closed for restoration. I parked by what used to be the creek. No birds, no insects, just silence. And then, static, soft, almost gentle, like a breath. It came from my truck's radio, though it was turned off. Through the hiss, I heard a voice, faint, broken, familiar. He's still here. The signal cracked, faded, then came back stronger. Roots. In the roots. I shut the engine off and sat there for a long time, staring at the tree line. The sun was setting, and the fog was starting to rise again. That's when I realized it wasn't the forest that was haunted. It was us. And somewhere in those ashes, something was still waiting.